Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Beacon Stack webinar. Today, we're going to discuss how retailers can cash in on beacon marketing. I'm very excited, actually. We have some very interesting content for you today. In fact, today I'm joined by my colleague, Neha Malik. Neha, welcome to the Beacon Stack webinar.
Thanks a lot, Ravi. I'm really excited to be part of this, and it's really exciting, and it's a great opportunity for me to share my views and understanding of beacon marketing. Thanks a lot.
Sure. Actually, I think that most of the people who've dialed in today, I think, know you already because of all the content, all the stuff that you've written on our blog. So thanks for joining us today. I think that it's going to be a great conversation. Um, to everyone out there, thank you for dialing in. I know some of you are dialing in from different parts of the world, and it's probably pretty late in some parts. So thank you for taking the time, and let's get started. Let's discuss how retailers can do beacon marketing in some new and interesting ways. Now, before we jump into how retailers can really do beacon marketing, let's just go over the basics. I know some of you already know this, but there's no harm in covering the basics of how beacons work. Beacons are low-cost, low-power transmitters, and they're equipped with something called BLE, or Bluetooth Low Energy, in terms of a technology and a chip. It's also called Bluetooth 4.0 or Bluetooth Smart. Now, what makes these beacons interesting is that the signal that these beacons emit, they can be detected by a mobile device. And the device can use it to detect proximity and microlocation and those kinds of interesting things. Beacons work in an actually fairly straightforward way. I mean, in the end, they're transmitting a radio signal which gets essentially captured by the mobile device. And the mobile device is using the signal to determine its proximity to the beacon. It does a calculation on something called the received signal strength, and then decides whether it's 2 meters away or half a meter away or say 20 meters away. What's interesting is also that the beacon identifies itself. So it's really transmitting a series of numbers, and the device, the smartphone or the app running inside the smartphone, uses this to identify the beacon and kind of get a sense for, okay, this is where I am, based on some kind of lookup. So those are the basics. I mean, I'm pretty certain all of you know it already, but just to set some context for how this stuff works. In today's webinar, we're going to talk about iBeacon marketing and what really it entails and how you can start doing it for retailers. We're going to discuss the benefits of doing this kind of proximity marketing. Neha is going to walk us through a bunch of different campaigns and campaign ideas that retailers have done. And in the end, we'll discuss do's and don'ts, just things to keep in mind as you roll out your iBeacon pilot or for that matter, even a wider deployment. What is iBeacon marketing? Right, so what is interesting about iBeacon marketing, proximity marketing, or any of these terms really, is that it's really about marketing to a customer at the precise moment that they are about to make a decision on a purchase or some kind of sale, right? And that is something which is only possible when you're able to market to them based on their location and based on a highly personalized communication channel. And that, for most people these days, is their smartphone, right? That's the most personal device any of us has ever owned. And using iBeacons, you can actually send a very personalized and relevant notification at the precise time that a person is standing inside your store, if you're a retailer, or you're standing inside, I don't know, if you're a museum or some other kind of physical space, right? It could even be a subway station. This is what you can do with proximity marketing and beacon technology in general. But I think from the standpoint of retailers, it's really a new way to drive sales because you're influencing customers at their moment of truth, so to speak, right? The precise minute that they're about to swipe their credit card or thinking about buying something and they need more information or something to tip them over. And that's really what proximity marketing is about. There are a number of benefits to attempting proximity marketing. At least there's a lot of data that says that there are at least 4 main benefits. Number one is, and this is kind of straightforward really, is that you're engaging a customer where it matters most, which is when they're inside your store, when they're actually in the process of making a purchase or thinking about making a purchase. Just contrast this with other forms of digital marketing, right? If you send an email out, who knows where they read the email? Maybe they read the email when they were at the office and it's really not relevant. It's not actionable. They'd have to remember to use something from that email when they were in store. So it's really about targeting them at that precise moment. There's data that says that in-store app usage is about 17 times greater for someone who's received a beacon message. And that makes sense because if you're walking around, you receive a notification on your device and it's relevant, you're likely to swipe that notification. So that's what makes us really interesting and very compelling, right? Right at that precise moment. Um, a very important factor that tends to come in most experiments or most pilots around beacons is how they can really enhance customer experience, right? Uh, for example, I mean, if you think about how a salesperson, the typical salesperson at a typical retail store, right? They're standing there, they're usually manning a specific section, and when you walk in, they really have no idea about you. They don't know who you are. You may be, for that matter, you may be the most loyal customer. You may have walked in there 20 times in the last 1 month, but that person who's standing right there at that precise moment maybe doesn't have that information. And they can't give you specific and very relevant and timely information because they still have to figure out who you are and all of those kinds of things, right? So how can you enhance customer experience in a situation like this? You can use the fact that the person has walked in, use beacons to kind of transmit that information over to a salesperson and have the salesperson equipped with information about the customer even before they're approached, or maybe at the precise moment that they're approached. There are many other things that you can do. I mean, in a retail setting, you can just offer more information. You can make it easy for them to pull up stuff. They don't have to go about the store looking for someone. They don't have to worry about getting the wrong information. Maybe someone doesn't know exactly the kinds of questions that they may have. And of course, there's data that says that 74% of customers spend more time with a company because of a history of positive customer experiences. So the more you're able to increase customer happiness, I think it's quite clear that it improves the bottom line. Number three, and a very important reason, is really about precision, right? I mean, with beacons, you can target customers, and not just by gender and age group and some other segments, but you can also target them based on real-time behavior inside your store. I mean, you can do, for example, things like, hey, this person is right now standing in front of the women's jacket section and has been standing there for the last 20 minutes and has been walking around and doing things, and we know that this person is really engaged and is likely to make a purchase. That kind of precision in the notification or the message that you send to someone really personalizes their shopping experience, and as a result, you can really get a lot more of an engagement because of doing that, because of knowing that that person is really so and so, and their birthday is coming up next week, and they recently bought some kind of a shirt, right? And I guess lastly, but certainly not the least reason, is you can generate a lot more revenue. There's reports that talk about beacons influencing over $4 billion worth of retail sales in 2015, and I think it's easy to see why, right? I mean, if you're able to send the right kind of message and you're able to provide customers with the right kind of information when they're seeking it, it's very likely that they'll make a purchase, or you'll be able to upsell them and be able to do interesting things. Anyway, I guess Neha's going to tell us more about how different customers have done it. So without further ado, let me move on to 7 different ways to market using beacons. So Neha, I'd love to hear more about everything that you've talked about, that you're going to show us here. So yeah, tell us a little bit about what Neiman Marcus did.
Yeah, so I would start with customer engagement. We
Right.
keep talking about what is customer engagement and why is there so much of discussion about why is customer engagement so important for customers.
Mm-hmm.
Sending rich product information such as videos or product demos or online social reviews can really help a customer make a purchase decision. Suppose you're viewing a product, you're standing right next to a product and you're not really sure, maybe I can check this online and maybe I'll get some more information about this. And at the same moment, you get a notification saying, hey, you know what, there's some more description about this product, or these are the online reviews.
Or a video or something.
A video. And it really helps a customer to understand and make a purchase decision. And that kind of an experience that you offer to a customer is really great for the customer. They feel like special and cared for in the store.
Hmm.
Another great feature that beacons make enable for you is you can track responses. You can see the kind of engagement different kind of messages get. You could actually track whether a video works better or a product demo works better. What kind of messages do customers interact and engage with more. A great example I would like to talk about is Neiman Marcus. This is a brand that uses iBeacon technology not for sending offers, just for sending notifications about in-store events. So, they basically trigger notifications letting people know about, here we have some guest designers in store today or some stylist, fashion stylist.
Hmm.
This is something that you would not expect. Suppose you enter a Neiman Marcus store to buy something and they say, hey, you know what, we have a fashion stylist in store today. And, it really adds to the thrill of the shopping
Right.
experience.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
this is something that you would not expect in an online setting. These are experiences where an offline retailer can really up their benchmark
Uh,
and beat the online
right.
retailers.
So I guess one of the things that it's saying here also is that they were able to use this kind of beacon messaging to track responses and understand their users better. So they were using it to collect more data.
Yeah, so they could actually understand what kind of events or what's more famous amongst customers, what kind of designers maybe are more popular amongst
Right.
customers. So keeping a track of these things really could help them plan their next campaign better.
Hmm.
Gives a
Great.
lot of insight about customer behavior and what kind of engagement they look forward to.
That's quite unique, actually. That's very interesting. I mean, thanks for sharing that with us. Uh, I guess moving on to something about smart mannequins and drawing customers in. Tell us about this, Neha.
Yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite use cases.
Uh-huh.
What better than using a mannequin to kind of read what's going on in a customer's head right at the moment.
Right.
We know about normal mannequins. Using beacons, you can transform them into smart mannequins, and simply by adding a beacon to a mannequin,
Right.
it's as simple as that. There's so many times I walk by a store and then I like something that the mannequin is wearing. I'm like, okay, what could be the price? Can I find this in store? Something like that is totally possible today with the help of beacons. This is exactly what House of Fraser did. The way their beacon campaign worked was if a customer was within 50 meters of the mannequin, they would be sent a message saying, hey, these are the products that the mannequin is adorning.
Right.
These are the prices. This is where you can find it inside the store, and also with a link to their online site. This is where you can buy it from. There's so many times you go, you like something on a mannequin, and you ask the sales guy, and it'll take a lot of time for them to find it in store. But this is just instant.
Right.
You know where to find it. You liked it, you bought it. It's as simple as
I
that.
agree. I mean, I think it's quite an innovative use for beacons. It's definitely it's a way of drawing people into the store as well, right? I guess that's what makes it quite interesting and quite unique. Cool. Yeah. Thanks. That sounds pretty interesting. Looks like the next one is about leveraging loyalty programs and using that in some way with beacons. How does this work? Yeah.
Oh yeah, so we know about loyalty programs. I mean, it's been in usage for so long, and then like we have all enrolled for so many loyalty programs.
You're right about that. I've forgotten the ones that I've even signed up for, honestly.
Yeah, and it's so difficult to remember, if you actually have points to redeem. There's so many times I walk into a store, buy something, and come out without
Right.
even realizing that, I had some points
Yeah.
to redeem. So beacons can come in really handy here. As soon as a loyal customer enters your store, you could tell them, hey, you have so many points on your loyalty card which you could use today. And because you're aware of, what they like, what are their preferences, what they bought in the past, you could tailor your messages accordingly. You could give them offers on exactly the same products that they like. And this kind of an experience that you give them is unparalleled, totally impossible in an online setting, in spite of all product recommendations and stuff. A great example that of a company that used beacons to leverage their loyalty program was San Francisco Soup Company.
Hmm.
So this is a chain of restaurants, and what they did was they installed beacons around, and whenever a customer was near a particular in vicinity of a particular beacon, he was shown the direction to the nearest restaurant of the chain. The kind of messages that the customer was sent was totally based on the kind of dishes they like.
Right. Okay.
So the brand was aware as to what you
Hmm.
like, whether you're a vegetarian or a non-vegetarian, what's your favorite
Right.
recipe.
Right, I see. That's interesting. Okay, so they kind of used the information about your purchase history, your own preferences, and they use that along with information about loyalty, and then that's kind of how they generated more sales, I guess, right?
Yeah, something as precise as, like I like hot and sour soup, and I just
Right.
walk by a store and they say, hey, you know what, there's a 50% off for this exact same
Right.
recipe or dish, and that's amazing.
Great. Yeah, I agree. I think that it's a pretty good use of beacons from the standpoint of like loyalty, right? And loyalty programs and reminding someone to use their loyalty points. I think that's a good one. It looks like the next one is about combining online and offline or bringing them together, and this one seems to be from Nordstrom.
Yeah.
Um, Tell us about this, Neha.
Yeah, so one of the things that a lot of people ask us is it only about offline setting, or is it, or
Right.
can beacons be used only for offline purchases and stuff?
Yeah.
What Nordstrom does is, it beautifully marries offline and online shopping. So the two of my favorite features that they offer, which really offer a combination of online and offline shopping. The first one is features such as click and collect. So what this feature is all about is, you can just click and purchase a product from their catalog, and you could go to their store, and as soon as you're near the store, the staff in the store will be made aware that, okay, this particular customer is coming to pick the order up, and they'll keep the order ready for pickup.
Nice.
So it's a beautiful combination of online shopping and offline. Just go there and collect it without waiting for your online shopping. If you had bought it online, you'd wait for the delivery to be
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
and
You don't have to wait like a couple of days or
yeah.
anything.
And when you reach the store, your order is ready for pickup.
Yeah.
What else could you want?
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Another great feature that they have is, suppose you're a shopper and you have some product of theirs on your shopping cart, and you happen to walk by one of their stores and the same product is available with them in store. They could send you a message saying, hey, you know what, we see that this product is there in your shopping cart and the same product is available in store. Why don't you buy it from us in store? You know, that's like
Yeah.
so amazing.
Right.
All the channels are integrated. There's a true omni-channel experience delivered to you right there.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I like the one, where they already know what's on your shopping cart, and they're like, it's kind of a little, I don't know. I guess you have to be signed in. It's not creepy. I mean, they're being helpful. They're telling you, hey, you have these products and you can buy them right now from the store. I like that. I think that's a pretty interesting thing, to offer. Moving on, I guess this is an interesting one, Neha. This one talks about upselling products or doing recommendations. And I think what's interesting about the offline world, or I guess what's unique about online is that in online shopping or online commerce, you get instant recommendations based on your browsing history, based on your purchase history, and the whole page is like getting personalized for you. So I guess that's how they're able to generate, sales or do upselling, right? About products that you might not otherwise have discovered. So I think this is interesting. It sounds like Zatarain's managed to do something with Beacon. So tell us about how this worked.
Yeah, so this is one of the most common questions we keep getting from our customers.
Okay.
That we know that beacons are used for selling products, but is there a way to upsell products as well? What if I know that a shopper bought something? How can I sell related products to them? How can I
Right.
offer Amazon type recommendations to product recommendations to them? It's totally possible with beacons because as a store we have CRM data, you have app data, you're aware of what each customer is buying, what they prefer, their preferences and stuff. So what Zatarain's does is they keep obviously they know what kind of recipes you like, what kind of dishes you might prefer to buy, and stuff like that. So as soon as a customer enters the store, they could send a recipe suggestion saying, "Hey, why don't you try this? These are the ingredients that are required to prepare this dish, and this is where exactly you could find the ingredients in store."
Right.
Or maybe you bought one item of a dish and they say, hey, why don't you buy this, and you could combine and make a new dish out of
Right.
this. So they are kind of being your expert suggestion in
Right.
what
Yeah.
what to
Like,
cook, and
yeah.
they're also helping you find the product in store.
Yeah.
And without any hassle you can actually go and find them.
Right. Yeah. So I guess what is interesting also is that Zatarain's doesn't own its own stores and is doing this in grocery stores
Yeah.
that you're anyway visiting. So I think that's what makes it really cool that they're also able to help you locate the product and do interesting things like that. I just I just want to take a minute to remind our audience that we're happy to take questions at the very end of the session. So, of course, you can go ahead and type your questions into the questions window at any time during the presentation, during the webinar. And what we'll do is once the presentation is complete, we'll just go over all the questions and we'll answer them one by one. So yeah, feel free to go ahead and type your questions in at any point during the webinar. Uh, Anyway, back to business. Yeah. So Neha, that was interesting. Thanks a lot for explaining how the upselling was working for Zatarains. Moving on, it sounds like there's an interesting use case around empowering sales associates, and I was talking about this
Yeah.
earlier in the presentation. Right, we were talking about enhancing customer experience. Quite honestly, this has happened a lot to me, right? I'm a loyal customer at a store, and they don't know that I'm a loyal customer until the very moment that I'm at the checkout counter and I've pulled out my credit card. And then they ask me, "Oh, sir, are you a loyal member? And do you have a card or something?" And like that's like the very last 30 seconds of your experience, right? It really ought to be much before that. I mean, why should they ask me whether I own a card at the very end, right? Is there some other way to do it? It looks like these guys, this one's about that. So yeah, tell us about this one, Neha.
Yeah, so obviously customer service is extremely important, and as
Hmm.
you mentioned in your slide that around 74% customers said that they would prefer going back to a shop which delivers great shopping
Right.
experiences, great customer service rather than somewhere where I could find the product cheaper.
Uh-huh.
So this is definitely one of the key points that customers consider when they are shopping with you. So the two kind of things that I really like that you could do with beacons in empowering sales associate. The first one being make
This was done where exactly?
this is done by Waitrose.
Waitrose. Okay.
It's a brand in UK.
Okay.
So what they did was, the app through the app you can actually contact sales staff. You
Oh,
could reach
interesting.
out. Yeah. So if you are looking at a product, or maybe you scan the barcode of a product and you want to know more about it, you just click on that and somebody will be there to help you.
Right.
So in today's day, it's so relevant because people don't want a lot of sales guys hovering
Yeah,
around you.
absolutely.
But when you want some information at the same instant, you would have somebody walking by to help and assist
Right.
you.
Yeah.
That's a great way to help customers. And the other one, obviously, as you spoke, was empowering staff with a full view of the customer, being aware of if that's a loyal customer, what age group they belong to, what's their history, maybe what location they are from, what kind of products they like,
Right.
their preferences and stuff. So if they're aware of all of that, they can answer their questions, they can deal with those customers in a very different way and in a more personalized manner
Right.
than they would otherwise. So I think this is a really important thing to take care of, and for any retailer
Right.
delivering it.
I love this one actually. To be honest, I really wish, and I hope more retailers implement this because
Yeah.
I find this particularly, exasperating when sales associates are, just completely clueless about us as customers.
Yep.
I guess number 7 here, and I guess this is the last one in our list, is about serving deals, offers, and incentives. So looks like American Eagle did something here. So tell us a little bit about this, Neha.
Okay, I'd like to mention that a lot of people think that beacons are only used for sending offers, and
Uh-huh.
that's the reason I put it as the last point.
Okay.
Because I just want
Yeah.
people to know that this is just the tip of the iceberg of what
Right.
you can do with beacons. Offers, it doesn't start and end with offers.
Yeah.
There's a lot of more things you can do.
Right.
So even when we talk about sending offers, the example I've chosen is that about American Eagle Outfitters, who
Uh-huh.
don't really send you an offer.
Right.
They incentivize you for doing something in their store.
I see.
So what they did exactly was they installed two beacons in their store. The first one was obviously to welcome somebody. The second one was to incentivize people to try clothes in the dressing room.
Ah.
So anybody who went to the dressing room and tried something would get incentives, maybe more reward points or an offer on the product that they tried. Because obviously, there's studies that state that if people are trying more clothes, maybe
Right.
there's higher chance of them buying it as
Buying
well.
it.
So
Interesting.
this kind of incentive really helped them increase their purchase, and
Drove up
yeah,
revenue basically for
yeah,
them. Yeah.
and it's a great use case. Who would think that they'd be incentivized for trying clothes?
Right.
But yeah.
Great. I think that's a very unique one, and I'm glad that brought up the fact that most people tend to think that you use beacons just to like send offers out, and I guess people also worry that hey, you just is that all they can do?
Yeah.
You're just going to spam people with offers, and I think clearly this whole set of examples you've covered demonstrate that there are lots of very useful things you can do for customers using beacons, right? You can actually enhance their experience. You can help them, essentially make a better purchase, make a better
Yes.
decision, things like that. So I think that's definitely very, very instructive, very insightful. So
Thank
I
you.
guess one thing that you were saying that you wanted to cover is the one about Nivea, and it's I know that you said, oh, it's one really interesting, study so about Nivea's use of beacons. So tell us how Nivea did this, and it sounds like they were quite successful with it.
Yeah, so what I was going to say is, this is in cue of what we talked about in the last slide. Because people think it's all about sending offers, we
Uh huh.
tried and gave another offer to them. We said we'd talk about 7 ways of using
Right.
beacons, and this is the
Okay.
eighth one.
Oh, this is the eighth one.
And
Okay, I like
compulsory,
that.
this
So
is
get
my
one free, huh?
get
With
one
seven, right?
free. Of all the beacon campaigns I've read about and we know,
Yeah.
I think this is my personal favorite, and there are a lot of reasons for doing so. The way Nivea used beacons was not to, try make a sales pitch and try and generate more revenue, nothing of that sort.
Right.
What they did was, they had this campaign called Ad Shield, and which was basically a piece of paper with, a wristband, beacon enabled wristband.
Mm-hmm.
They sold it in form of, it was an advertisement sent across in magazines.
Okay.
So what it basically was for, for people who go to the beach, you could just use that as a wristband for your children. Okay.
Oh,
And the way
interesting.
it worked was, in the Nivea Sun Protege app, you could limit the distance as to how far your child could go on the beach. So
Uh,
you're on the beach, you're enjoying yourself. At the same time, you are a bit scared of, where your child is. So you
right.
just tie that wristband, control the distance that they can go, how far they can go. As soon as your child crosses the distance, you get an alarm saying, hey, you could check
Oh,
up where your
very
child is.
cool. Right.
So, this is like taking customer experience to the next level. They want you to enjoy your stay at the beach. They want you to use Nivea on the beach, and
Right.
they want you to be aware of, take care of your kids at the
Yeah.
same time. So yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons it won the Mobile Prix Award as well.
Really, it did.
Yep, it did.
Yeah. Okay. Great, fantastic. I mean, I'm blown away. I think it's quite interesting, and that too, it's interesting that they did their own beacons, which are in a kind of a wearable form factor, like
Yeah.
these wristband beacons. That's really cool. Sounds like they deserve that award that they won.
Yeah.
Great. I guess that would be that's probably the end, right? No more free, beacon campaign examples. Um, so I guess the last thing we want to talk about today is really about things to keep in mind while doing proximity or iBeacon marketing. Um, what should you do first? What should you do? You should run a pilot project before going live. Why do we recommend this? Because we found that this is so new as a space, as in terms of technology. You have to first let yourself as a company get comfortable with it, but also your own audience, right? Your customers. Help them understand how to work. Do a smaller pilot so that it's possible for you to study the results. It's possible for you to make tweaks to how something should work before you roll it out to a much larger, store, nationwide kind of store rollout. So we recommend that you run a pilot project definitely before going live. If you're a retailer, I would say, and if you have like 100 stores across the US, maybe you should try running your campaigns first at 3 or 5 stores, maybe before you kind of try to roll it out. It's really important because beacons work in conjunction with apps. The second point that I was just getting to, is to seek permission before accessing user information. I don't think many users will take kindly to you automatically pulling stuff, and so it's important to ask and say, "Look, I'm going to access your profile, or I'm going to do this," just so that they're aware of what you're doing and they have a way to opt in or opt out. So that's an important thing. And the third thing, and this is really specific to how you trigger messages inside your app, is use threshold times, or what we call dwell times inside Beacon Stack, right? So you use dwell times to kind of control the message and make sure that it's only delivered after a certain quantum of time has passed, right? You don't want to have a random person who just kind of flew by the mannequin or literally walked past in a major hurry get a message, or it's essentially spam at that point, right?
Yeah.
So use dwell time to determine if someone is really in the area that you expect that they are in before you send a message, right? So maybe set a dwell time of, maybe 10, 15 seconds or 10 seconds or 30 seconds, as the case may be, so that you're reasonably sure that that person is really over there, right? And they're not just chasing their kid or something down the, down the store, and then they happen to show up in that section. So I think that's important. In terms of things to not do, right? Or don't do this. That's essentially what we're saying here. Is first, don't keep customer data in different silos. I guess the reason for this is, you kind of want to build the best picture of the customer before you send them a message or whatever. So try to integrate with your CRM, and so don't do spam, right? Essentially, the whole idea behind iBeacon marketing is to kind of be personal and relevant. So yeah, definitely use customer data. Um, don't use beacons only to sell. I think that's really great. And I think it's a good recommendation, something that maybe should have been on the top of the list, right? Because people tend to think that, first you sell and then you figure something out, right? And I
Yeah.
think that you really ought to be useful first, deliver
Yeah.
a better experience,
True.
and then, also use it for upselling and for other things. But don't just, do that. Just don't try to keep selling all the time. And the last one, I guess, is relevant to the second one, which is don't send too many messages. Like limit it to maybe like one message per store visit, or two messages a visit, or something like that, right? And you know that there is an upper bound on how many messages someone can get, because it may happen that you may end up having all kinds of campaigns, and somebody may get 8 messages
Yeah.
in one shot, and then that's it. They're done with your app. They're going to uninstall your app, right? So you definitely don't want to get to that, and you don't want to be responsible for people uninstalling your app. So um, I guess that, that was it. That was like some of the basic things to keep in
Yeah.
mind before you get started on your pilot. But speaking of getting started on your pilot, I'd like to introduce the Beacon Stack Starter Kit, which is the perfect way for you to get started with your iBeacon project. And the best part about it is you really don't need a developer's help to get going. We have a complete platform which is built on, with a web-based console, as well as Beacon Stack apps for iOS and Android. It comes with 3 beacons, enterprise-grade Beacon Stack beacons, and these beacons can actually, they have AA battery beacons, so they're very easy to service and kind of turn on or off. And we also, with the Beacon Starter Kit, we give you access to the Beacon Stack platform for a whole year, which includes campaign management and analytics features. And of course, you get access to the SDKs for iOS and Android. So all of this is one neat package, and it's $79. You can buy this on our website, beaconstack.com, and we'll ship it to you by FedEx worldwide, usually within 3 to 5 days. So just for those of you ready to get going, want to get your fingers or hands dirty with some proximity marketing experiments in your own office, on your store, feel free to hit us with, hit the website and get the Beacon Stack Starter Kit. I guess that brings us to the very end of our slide deck. We're at this point ready to take questions, and we'll spend the next 10 minutes doing that. So let's start looking at the questions that we have so far. I guess the first question is about the deck itself, the slide deck. Will it be made available after the webinar? Absolutely. We mail out the webinar content to everyone over email, everyone who's registered, basically. So yes, you will definitely receive that once we send that out. The next question is, what do I need to run an iBeacon pilot or a beacon pilot? I guess that's a good question, and then essentially the minimum you need is you need hardware, you need beacons, you need the software layer, you need the SDKs, you need an app if you want to just do tests without any developer involved, and you need a way to be able to control the messaging, and you do the proximity campaigns. And all of that is as I was just mentioning before this, it's all included in our Beacon Stack Starter Kit. So I guess one easy way to start is to buy that and then get going. The next question is really
Okay, this is about is a beacon trial really important and why?
Oh yeah,
I
okay,
think,
that's a good one.
yeah, you just spoke about it, in the do's and don'ts
Right.
section, and I think it's really important for people to know that, running a beacon trial before the actual deployment is so important.
Uh-huh.
I would like to talk about an example first.
Hmm.
Another one of my favorite retailers' beacon campaigns has been Lord and Taylor, because they took a very informed and very slow and informed decision on
Right.
how to go live with beacons. They started with the beacon trial, and the trial actually ran for around 3 months. In these 3 months, they tried and understand what kind of messages were, delivering results, what kind of an approach they should have to the whole beacon campaign thing.
Hmm.
And one of the things that they learned from the trial was, they were initially sending 8 messages per store visit, and
Wow.
now after they got feedback and stuff, they've come down to 3.
Uh,
So they totally understood why, this is indicative of why a beacon trial is so important. You're
right.
bound to make errors. You don't know what kind of messages will work. You don't know how your customers will respond to things. If you run a beacon trial with a limited audience for a limited time, you will get very constructive feedback that you can use when you're going live with
Right.
beacons. So yeah, I would say that, yeah, it's totally important.
Great. No, I think that I completely agree with you, Neil, on that one. Um, the next question here is about what does it say? How does one overcome the barrier of getting more customers to download a store app? Great question. We've actually covered this in a blog post. The blog post is titled "Building an Audience for Your Retail App: Top 4 Tips." So, and there's some interesting information in there and tips on marketing your app in an offline setting. Please head over to blog.beaconstack.com. You'll find that blog post, and it has a lot of information that I think you'll find useful. Another question that we have here is what kind of beacons are good for a retail store, right? So I think that's a good one. Let's talk about what it is that a retail store needs, or what is it that you have to keep in mind. Obviously, a retail store is a designed experience. So there's walls, there are mannequins, there are different sections of the store with products on display. And so beacons really, from the standpoint of aesthetics, you've got to have beacons which definitely are, they kind of merge into the background. You don't want beacons really standing out. You don't want to draw the attention of your customers who are walking through the store. So beacons that are, maybe white or something like that. Something which are something that's easy to put on. I guess yeah, that's another thing. You want to be able to mount these beacons easily. You want to be able to service them in a fairly straightforward manner. I think it makes a big difference to have beacons that have a long battery life, right? That you don't have to worry about them for the next 3 or 4 years, or at least for the next 2 years. Uh, and I think that's also because if you have batteries keep running out all the time, the cost of actually replacing those beacons is quite high because you have to send someone over, and then there's labor involved and all of these things. So you kind of want to get beacons uh, which are they have at least a battery life of 2 to 3 years or at some kind of setting. You also want to make it secure. I mean, I think security is really important in a retail store setting. I mean, if you're doing a treasure hunt, I mean, maybe not. But I think when you're looking at transactions, you're looking at information that could be potentially sensitive. I think security of the beacon communication channel, all of those things, the Bluetooth security settings, those are important. So definitely, it's important to get beacons with those features. I'm sure there are many more, but we've covered some of this material in the past. So you can take a look at some of our older webinars. I guess the next one is what types of scenarios have been most successful so far in deployments beyond small trials? Any verticals beyond in-store marketing that have shown up? Logistics, healthcare, parking, etc. Okay, good question. I think since we're talking about retail here, there's no doubt that if you look at Macy's deployment, Macy's has gone to 400 stores with their beacon deployments. It definitely in-store marketing has gone up to the next level. We're seeing a lot of interest, and at this point, they're still at a trial level in terms of logistics being one area. There's also hospitality that's looking at beacons in a major way. But yeah, it's a good question. I think that's something that's still happening, and as it happens, we'll definitely be covering that on our blog. So stay tuned. The next one is about Do you have to have an existing app or do you have to develop apps? Yeah, so I guess, I mean, just in case any other question, I guess the question is about whether you have to have an existing app, for your own customers. I mean, the answer is yes, certainly. If you don't have one, you have to develop one and get it out there. The reason we recommend if you have an app already is because if you're going to run a pilot and you're going to observe customer behavior, you want to have decent app distribution. If you don't, you'll have a tough time getting them to even install the app. And then once they install the app, they have to be in your store, and they have to be in a store with beacons in it where they're being piloted, and before they can even experience any proximity marketing. So I think at a minimum, you kind of want to do it with an existing app if you don't have one already, which I think is also about whether Beacon Stack has an existing app. We absolutely do. It's an app which is the Beacon Stack standard app. It's available on the app stores. That being said, it's probably really good for internal tests and pilots. Probably not suitable for external, for you to send to your customers, or in your stores, because it's obviously not branded, it's branded Beacon Stack, which I don't think you want to send to your customers. But that's really what we recommend. If you really want to go to the next level with when you want to do a pilot with real customers, I don't think there's really an alternative to using or doing some kind of basic integration of the SDK and developing an app. So yeah, that was that. Well, it looks like that was it. We only have time until I guess, yeah, we're out of time, right, Neha? So, well, Neha, really, thanks a lot for joining us today on this webinar, and I think some of your insights into some of the different things that retailers have done with proximity marketing and beacons in particular, they were really very insightful. I learned a lot today. So, thank you for joining us, and thank you all for dialing in today. I know it's quite late in some parts of the world, so. Thank you for participating, and we'll see you next time. All right.
Thank you.
Bye.